Our story begins with the huge rabbit laughing and welcoming the players, then telling them to get ready to enter the game. Explain that the game's balance comes from the impartial nature that stems from logic. As qualified and specially chosen players, passing the first stage should be a breeze. Then, the snow appeared and fell around them. The lady caught the snow and was amazed while asking if it was the first stage for new players of the Paradise game because it's just like the real world. She then tells our protagonist that it's a bit cold, but he just zips up his coat and tells the lady that it is pretty cold. The huge rabbit jumps above them and calls them new players who have crossed from the other world. It tells them that when logging into the game, they aren't allowed to bring any kind of deadly weapons. Otherwise, the weapons will be automatically ejected. Also, there is no signal within the game. The rabbit congratulates our protagonist, named Ju Wen, for becoming a special numbered player, and tells him that his number is VI, which means lover, but it is unable to determine the special appearance within the game. The lady excitedly tells him that it was amazing he was a numbered player, as she had only seen numbered players online. Today, she actually got to see one alive. He tells her that it was only for now, and the moment the game starts, there is a chance that numbered players won't survive. She awkwardly agrees, telling him that the guide mentioned that the game's mechanics are very random, making it pretty dangerous. She assures him not to worry because she used to watch a lot of tutorials on how to pass that stage from the strategy group, so she'll definitely help him soar. However, he just quietly stares at the lady and notices her necklace with the name Zio Zio. He asks her about her relationship with her little sister and if they are close. The lady tells him that normally when people ask questions like that, they usually have a story, and asks him if he has a sister. He makes an agreeing sound. She tells him not to just make a sound and asks what. He tells her that there is no what because his sister was dead. She backs out, telling him not to be so depressed, and when she was about to explain, he interrupts her by saying that it was coming, making her look at him confused. Suddenly, the huge rabbit lands behind them and tells them that the stage was appropriately chosen for the qualified players as a challenge. It orients them that there are 2 participants, the game time is 72 hours, and reminds them to pay special attention to the stage's clear condition. The rabbit then orients them that the game will begin in 5 seconds and starts counting down to 5, and when it hits 0, the rabbit jumps away, making her shocked. Then, they see that the white rabbit had 100 matches, making him wonder if it was an arithmetic question or if it was a logical question. The game shows them that the problem is worth 15 points, considering the question has serious shortcomings. Players don't need to answer for full points, and obtaining any points will count as a pass. The stage's full clear condition will be shown once the player earns points, and the time to answer is 5 minutes. Players are asked to act fast and look for clues within the game to answer the question. Also, if the question is still unanswered or a wrong answer is given in 5 minutes, players will lose their qualifications to play the game, and their accounts will be immediately deleted. He walks away, leaving the lady staring at the question on the ground, confused. He tells her that it seems they need to look for clues. Then he notices the sign on his side and sees that it is not completely covered in snow. The lady snaps her fingers and tells him that she got it. They have said that in the strategy group before, it's a typical math question. As long as they write the word solution, they'll be able to earn points. However, she stops moving when saliva drips on her head. When she looks up, she sees a huge monster looking down at her. She fearfully looks at the monster, which is staring back at her. On the other hand, Wen reads on the sign that leaving the village without the mayor's permission would be punished according to law. He wonders what law it is talking about and if those are clues. Then the system tells him that player Hu Mingmeng has answered the question incorrectly, so their account will be deleted accordingly, making him surprised. The huge rabbit appears and tells them that the remaining time to answer is 20 seconds. It begins to count down, so he immediately runs fast toward Mingmeng, who is in front of the huge monster, begging him to save her in tears. He rushes toward her while the rabbit is still counting down. Suddenly, Mingmeng explodes, and he sees her shattering into pieces, making him stop in shock. Then the monster jumps to attack him instead, but he continues running forward and punches the monster in the side, making it thrown hard into a nearby tree. The rabbit teasingly counts down to 7. When the countdown hits 6, he immediately grabs a branch of the tree and begins to write in the snow. When the countdown hits 2, he raises the branch of the tree in the air and looks at his answer, saying that it's known that the white rabbit has 100 matches. The rabbit congratulated him for successfully earning points and told him that the total for that question was 15 points, so he earned 2 points. Then the rabbit angrily tells him to have fun playing the game. He looks at Mingmeng's necklace, knowing that it clearly isn't a match question but rather a logic question that would get them points just by copying the question. He holds tight to the necklace while telling Ming that if he just disappeared like it, her little sister would surely want to come to paradise to find her. He hears something walking closer to him, and the system tells him that he has run into conflict with the local villagers. The village security team had already received a report and would deal with him according to the law. One of the monsters tells him that they have received a report of a fight outside the village entrance and asks him if it was him. He shakes his head and replies, nope, but the monster angrily tells him not to try to make excuses because they have surveillance. Their small village has always been peaceful, and they especially hate being bothered by foreigners because every time they come, a bad situation always occurs in the village. Fighting is a serious offense, so he must be imprisoned according to the law. He tells the monster that it wasn't a fight, but rather a one-sided beating. Then he points at the monster he beat and tells the monster that it was the victim, making the monster stunned in shock and telling him that he knows the law quite well. A moment later, he is smiling when the monster snaps his prison picture and tells him that because he had stirred up trouble, he would be imprisoned for 5 days. Then he tells the monster that since he is there, he should let him ask him a question. The monster tells him to speak. He asks the monster if it would count as breaking the law if the villagers, including them, leave the village because he just saw the sign at the village's entrance. The monster replied that not only the villagers but also anyone who entered shouldn't even think about leaving the village without the mayor's permission. Otherwise, it would count as breaking the law and he would be sentenced to death. He asks the monster if it is an even more serious offense than murder and arson. The monster replied that murder and arson are nothing because when the night comes, they can kill humans to roast and eat. A moment later, when the monster was gone, he opened his inventory to grab his scarf and hung it on the ceiling. Then, he held the edges of the scarf and tied it together, making the robots watching him ask if he thought there was no chance of beating the stage, so he was giving up on what he was doing. On the other hand, one of the robots woke up, making the robot next to it tell it that it was an awake Ming who was changed to a robot. She looked around and asked where she was. The old robot welcomed her to the bullet screen world, making her confusedly ask what the bullet screen world is. The old robot replied that it was a world created by those who had their accounts deleted, and the world's enormous number of spectators referred to them. She could imagine that they were the game's broadcast viewers. She tearfully asks if it means she died, what about her little sister, and if her little sister won't go looking for her. The old robot tells her not to worry and to take a look there while pointing at the screen in front of them. Then the old robot explains to her that her nameplate had been picked up by Wen, so Wen should give it to her sister in her place, making her shocked to see Wen. He grabs the scarf he tied, making the robots think he had poor willpower, but then he powerfully swings his body in the air and destroys the wall with his feet, making the robots watch him in silence. The robots ask how he kicked down the wall like it was just a cracker, if it was the kind of strength a normal person is supposed to have, and if it was the benefit they get from being a numbered player. Wen looks at his side and is shocked to see monsters stop playing in shock too. Then he immediately runs away while teasingly saying goodbye to the monsters. A moment later, the villagers' monsters are asked where he went and look around to find him while he is hiding behind the tree nearby. While he is busy looking at the monsters, someone comes out behind him, making him surprised. He immediately looks around and launches his fist at someone in the dark, but he forcefully stops in time when he sees that it is a girl in a robe and is in tears in fear. She looks at the rabbit girl confused, but she signals him to be quiet because they can't be discovered and tells him that those villagers eat people. He sighed in relief, and then the rabbit appeared to congratulate him for encountering a key character. The complete question was now updated, telling him that the white rabbit has 100 matches, and there are still 2 months to go. The villagers and the white rabbit both need to keep warm, but the white rabbit has no home and is almost unable to endure that winter any longer. Luckily, there is an empty room in one of the houses of the generous villagers, who are willing to rent out the room to the white rabbit for 5,000 copper coins for 2 months. The white rabbit ultimately decides to sell the matches to easily endure the winter. Also, the market price is 10 copper coins per match, so if it is put into the hands of him, who is a good talker, it should be able to sell for a higher price. In return, after the completion of the mission, he can safely exit the game, and the completion reward is 1,200 points. He asks her if she is the white rabbit from the White Rabbit Has 100 Matches question, but the rabbit girl just asks him if he can give her a home. She tells him that, in return, she can guarantee that he will be able to safely leave that village. Suddenly, the voice tells him that the system has detected that he has a special number, VI, meaning lover, and he has gained a special completion condition that the white rabbit has never dated before. He can help her with a completion reward of 600 points, making the robot viewers confused while the old robot says that it was great to be young. Ming poutingly asks if he can feel it with his eyes. He slams his fist on his other hand and tells the rabbit girl that he understands it now. He asks her where the matches are, making the viewers ask why he is asking about the matches in that situation. She grabs something from her bag and gives him the matches, telling him that he already wanted them. If he goes out to sell matches now, he'll surely be arrested. He tells her that it is not enough, so she should give him a few more, making the viewers ask if it was just him who found it pretty good because he hadn't seen such a cute girl in a long time. They shout that they don't agree with it, it's cheating, and they should report the cheater. Wen is so low, and they oppose in that marriage. She gives him more matches while the viewers are commenting at him. He asks her why she is so stingy, making her turn red in shyness and give all her matches to him. He smiles and takes out the bottle of gas in his pocket, then pours it around and lights up one of the matches. Then he throws it to where he put the gas, while the rabbit girl is angrily writing something on the sand. But then, a used match rolls to the picture she made, making her look around in confusion and shocked to see the houses nearby were on fire. He smilingly asks her how should he put it and tells her that it was pretty beautiful. She tearfully tells him that the room there was the best place to rent, but he burned the house down. The rabbit furiously shouts that he violated the village law about premeditated arson, and that the small village security team had already received the report and would deal with him according to the law. Then the monsters appeared immediately and shouted what the heck because it was him again and asked him if he was the one who committed the crime and if that little girl was coerced into that by him, to which she nods frantically. But he tells the monster not to talk nonsense and he was the mastermind. But she provided the tools to commit the crime, so she was an accomplice. The monster and the rabbit furiously shout that it seemed he really knew the law. Once again, he is smiling happily with the little girl while they are being captured, and the monster tells him that for deliberately committing arson, he was sentenced to 5 years of imprisonment. The little girl who supplied the perpetrator with the tools and cooperated with the arson was sentenced to 1 year of imprisonment. Also, it was effective immediately. Then they are thrown into the cell and locked inside. She tearfully asks him where the home he promised her is. He smiles and knocks on the wall while asking if it wasn't home and asks her what she thinks. The rabbit shatteringly congratulates him. He tells the rabbit not to stutter and continues, so the rabbit congratulates him for smoothly providing a place for the white rabbit to hide from the wind and snow, and smoothly finding a place to pass the winter. He has successfully completed the stage and has obtained eligibility to participate in the subsequent stages of the game. Meng Meng happily jumps and shouts that when completed the game. He is silent, leaning on the wall, while the rabbit girl is staring at him. Then the voice tells him that he had completed the requirement, so he was rewarded with 1,200 points and collected clues about the storyline, 1/2, and the completion time was 18 hours, 39 minutes, beating 98% of other players in the same room. The completion grade is S, so an additional 300 points were gained, and he has obtained a special item which is graded called White Rabbit's Blessings. He knows that White Rabbit's Blessings gain a one-time use resistance to a fatal wound, but he still asks if it was the only item he received. The voice is silent for a moment but eventually tells him that within that stage, he had gained 20,091 observers, amounting to 200 points, and his total accumulated points in that stage were 1,700 points. Then the rabbit girl pulls his clothes to get his attention and asks him if he will come back to the village to play with her in the future. Then the voice tells him that the calculation is complete and tells him that in 1 minute, he should organize his belongings and get ready to exit the game. He asks her back who would want to come back to that damn place while the voice tells him that he only has 20 seconds. She asks him if she can come to find him to play in the future instead. He looks at her while slowly fading and tells her that if she really can come, then he won't be opposed to the idea. Then the voice counts down to 10 seconds on his exit while he is looking at the rabbit girl smiling at him, and when his time is speedily decreasing, the rabbit girl tells him that it is settled and she will see him next time. Then when the countdown hits 1, he wakes up and is transported back to the real world. He is in the street with a lot of people when he dials the number of a person named Zhang Ling. He tells Ling that he is out and asks about the other players in the same group. When Ling answers, he asks Ling if she still thinks he is fast and if she doesn't want him to die there. He stops walking and seriously tells Ling that he couldn't find any clues related to them in the newcomer stage, and he doesn't know whether he will find anything in the later stages. When Ling answers something to him, he tells Ling that he is almost there, so he'll hang up first. But then he notices the huge floating thing in the sky, and it has words written, "Welcome all players to paradise." Summer. 8 years ago, an error warning prompt resembling a Windows XP computer suddenly appeared in the sky all around the world. Soon after, a pitch-black triangular pyramid appeared in the blue sky. Then, 2 hours later, the same voice resounded in different languages all around the world to make an announcement, and everyone soon realized that paradise was indeed a game. Real people would play the game, they couldn't create alternate accounts, there were no revives, and there were no guides to beat the stages. Everyone with a rhombus-shaped tattoo on their left wrist was a player who had been selected, and no one had beaten that game up to that day. The lady opened the door for him and he smiled upon seeing her. A moment later, he was eating when he told the lady that the situation was pretty much as it seemed and that it was relatively easy. Jiangling asked him if he meant he used an NPC to burn a house down, and the game still let him pass. He replied that it was a result of the game's all-powerful rules and the scenario's clear conditions contradicting each other, resulting in a bug. Due to the game's balance, the all-powerful rules accepted players destroying the surroundings to collect clues and flee for their lives. Also, luckily, that stage had the concept of law enforcement, and he could spend the winter in prison. She asked him if he had thought about the situation if the White Rabbit's sentence didn't last that long, and he replied that if it were so, he'd bring the White Rabbit and break out of prison again because stacking up the crimes should be able to accumulate enough prison time. Ling told him to do whatever he wanted as long as he was fine. Then, he remembered something and showed the necklace to Ling while telling her that it was the only remnant left from his teammate in the newcomer's stage, and he'd have to trouble her to bring it to his teammate's little sister. Then, he told Ling to just say that she hopes she continues to live well, to which Ling agreed. After they ate, he picked up their plates, but then Ling told him to wait a second and asked him if he had taken out the vodka from the liquor cabinet, and if he was even old enough to drink alcohol. He was silent for a moment and proudly showed his ID to Ling while telling her that he had become an adult last month. She sighed and told him that he was happier about being an adult than passing a stage in the game. She also informed him that for the next stage, he'd have an employer, and as he knew, it would replenish some of Echo's funds. However, he told her that he had just passed the newcomer stage. She told him that the employer had also just passed the newcomer stage, so it was the reason why they valued him more. Compared to others who had been in the game for years and earned a high number of points, the game's difficulty was accordingly increased. He started washing his dishes while telling her that what she said was true. Later, in the huge house and tree with a lot of ravens, he was transported in front of it and looked around. Then, he stood up to see everything clearly and saw a huge red object floating in the sky and a creepy doll coming out on it, welcoming all the players to paradise. It then explained to them that the stage they were in was a regular level, and the average player score was 1067 points. It oriented them that the current number of participants was 7. The game time was 360 hours, and in 5 minutes, the prologue to the game's storyline would be released. Suddenly, he stepped on something on the ground, making him shocked. And when he picked it up, he wondered why there was only half. Then he looked at the corpse he was holding while the viewers continued to comment. The creepy doll told them that the storyline's prologue was as follows. There were 9 children raised by Director Lin, who treated them all very strictly. Today, Director Lin assigned them a task that required them to go out and divide responsibilities for making purchases. However, they had too much fun in town and missed the deadline, so Director Lin was now furious and demanded a reasonable explanation. Then, the creepy doll told them that the prologue to the storyline had been fully explained, so all of them should return home within 20 minutes, and the countdown started now. He realized that there were only 7 players, but Director Lin had 9 children. When he remembered the employer, someone shouted, making him look back and see one of the players being dragged by someone, telling her to get over there and asking her if she was standing around waiting to die. Director Lin reminded the lady that she had said before they should return home before 10 p.m. The lady apologized to Director Lin, admitted it was her fault, but she wouldn't do it again, and begged someone to save her. Director Lin just told her that she broke the house rules, so she must receive punishment. Director Lin dragged her inside the house and before closing the door, glared at the remaining players outside, leaving them stunned in horror. Then, they heard the lady explaining to Director Lin that she got lost, which was the reason why she was late, and she shouted to someone to save her. They heard a loud fall sound, making him wonder what could be the punishment. Suddenly, the crystal on his ring lit up and pointed to something behind the bush. He followed the light and saw someone hiding behind. The man was in tears and shocked and feared to see him, but he offered his hand to the man, introducing himself as Strategy Team Echo, Zhu Wen. The man sighed with relief and accepted his hand, introducing himself as Gu Suining, his employer. Suddenly, the creepy doll announced that the players should quickly return to the plot setting. If they did not return to the marked location within the allocated time, it would be considered a forfeit, and their account would be deleted. The remaining time was 5 minutes, making Suining shocked and asking him what they should do. He replied that they would go back and tell Suining that if Director Lin wanted an explanation, they would give her one. Suining thought all the explanations from those players before were useless, and Wen was so reckless that they were definitely going to die. Then they headed to Director Lin, who was waiting for them at the gate, about to tell them that they broke the house rules, so they must be punished when suddenly he called Director Lin mother and asked her why she didn't look for them when it was already so late, leaving Director Lin and Suining confused. He poutingly told Director Lin that it was so dark that they got lost in the forest, and there were corpses by the roadside, so Suining and he were so frightened that they couldn't even move. He looked around, leaving Director Lin and Suining silent in confusion. Then he asked Director Lin if she no longer loved them and if she felt that raising so many children was troublesome, so she wanted to abandon them. Then he threw a tantrum, telling Director Lin that she didn't love them at all and didn't treat them as her children, making Director Lin sweatily tell him that she didn't. He asked her why she didn't look for them when she loved them and told her that they were so scared, so if she wanted to abandon them, they would leave right away. Director Lin stopped him and explained that she was not abandoning them, she was just worried about the two of them. However, he still acted hurt. Director Lin told them not to be scared because they were home now and they should go eat. She also mentioned that she had been waiting for the two of them to come back for dinner, leaving Suining unable to believe that it was actually working. Later, they entered the house and Director Lin told Suining to come quickly because it was cold outside, to which Suining nodded while Wen walked in big strides. Director Lin told him that she made his favorite dish, so he shouldn't be angry, and next time they were late, she would definitely come looking for him. He told Director Lin that it was how it should be, and she had no idea that the forest at night was so scary. Director Lin acknowledged it was her fault and offered him a drink while sweetly telling him to come have a drink. However, he pouted, making everyone freeze like a stone in shock. Then, Director Lin told everyone to start eating, and after eating, they could all go to sleep. He suggested that they should eat as if they were at home, making them look at him in disbelief. The commentators laughed hard, thinking that Wen was interesting and a badass for leading Director Lin by the nose. He then asked Director Lin about the other two, and she replied that his elder sister was not feeling well, so she had already gone to bed, and his little sister just drank her milk and went to bed as well. He realized that Director Lin is past the breastfeeding stage, and there isn't any earthy or manure smell of livestock outside the house, so the milk is definitely not produced by them. It must have been brought by a player while Director Ling told them that their little sister slept too much during the day, and she might wake up in the middle of the night. Then, she asked them who wanted to look after her tonight, but the players didn't answer. He told her that he would go, and Director Wen sweetly told him that he was a good kid. Then she stood up to leave and told them to continue eating because she would rest first. After Director Lin left, the players began to move their bodies. Suining asked him if it was edible, and he replied that it was alright and it was just chicken, but it was a bit stale. The lady was shaking in fear and asked them what exactly the punishment Director Lin was talking about. The man replied that it was hard to say, but it was just his fourth stage, and according to his experience, if it was a normal punishment, it would be executed immediately. Still, if it was a deadly punishment, a player might die tonight, making everyone shocked while he was busy eating his meat. The man once again told everyone that a random player might die tonight, making everyone lower their heads in silence while he was walking away. He looked around the house, thinking that it is probably an exploration stage based on the clear conditions, and they will probably only know after they meet the elder sister or the little sister. He knew that a little sister who still drinks milk means she was probably 1 or 2 years old, and she isn't on the first floor, so she must be on the second floor. Suddenly, someone ran after him, and Suining called his name to ask if he could join his operation tonight. He told Suining that other than using the toilet, he should try to stay with him at all times, use his brain, and not be a hindrance. Suining thanked him, but he told Suining that there was no need to thank him because he was being paid for it, to which Suining awkwardly agreed. Then, he told Suining that the rule this time is that he will get the whole payment if he stays alive, and only the balance if he dies according to the employer, which means if there are any accidents, he will run, making Suining awkwardly laugh in response. Later, they entered the room with a crib in the middle and saw a baby girl holding a doll sleeping. Suining noticed the blood on the baby's lips and softly asked Wen if the milk that the baby drinks is blood. He replied maybe and told Suining that the bathroom there was separated because it was at the other end of the hallway. Then, he asked Suining if he needed to shower today. Suining thought that Wen is a player on a strategy team, so Wen should be very cautious, wondering if Wen is warning him not to run around blindly and trigger any death scenario. He replied that he can bear with it for a day and he can shower tomorrow morning. Wen told him that if it was so, he would go ahead, leaving Suining confused. Then he left, leaving Suining in confusion and wondering where is the caution that they talked about. A moment later, Suining asked him if he thinks the baby is really sleeping. Then he shook the baby while asking her if she was sleeping and telling her to wake up, making Suining jump in shock. Then he told Suining that it seems like the baby won't wake up anytime soon, and she was sleeping more soundly than his sister Zhongling's pig. Also, it was pretty late, so they should go to sleep as well, making Suining wonder if it was really going to be fine. Later, they were on the bed sleeping peacefully when someone called for help, making him stand up and grab Suining, who was sleeping. Then he ran outside while still holding Suining toward the room where the sound was coming. Then he arrived at the room where the man was being dragged, and the man begged him to save him because something was grabbing his leg. He threw Suining away and reached for the man, making the man look at him like a hero. But when he was close to reaching the man, he reached the thing underneath the bed and grabbed tightly the hand that was pulling the man. The monster underneath the bed was shocked while he was smiling, and the man was confused. Then he started to pull it out with all his strength, making the viewers ask question marks in confusion and ask who the ghost is there and if Wen grew up eating spinach. They also commented that they remembered that the monsters and ghosts in the game are designed to be stronger than humans. They can't face them head on. He was about to pull out that thing, but then its hand slowly became liquid, making his hand slip, and it immediately went back underneath the bed. He immediately bent down to look at it, and he was disappointed to see that it escaped. He looked at the slimy thing in his hand and said that it was so disgusting. Then he looked at Suining, who was awkwardly laughing, and wiped his hands on Suining's clothes while telling Suining that the thing that escaped was nothing, so they should go back to sleep. The man tearfully thanked him and told him that if not for him, he would have been dead. He told the man that it was nothing much, but that thing felt familiar. Still, they should go back and rest because they should still be able to sleep for another 3 or 4 hours. But a moment later, he said that they couldn't sleep now, to which Suining agreed. The players told him that he could ignore them, so he should go to sleep, and they would follow him from now on, so he shouldn't chase them away. He introduced himself as Wang Yuanqing. Suining tiredly asked him what they should do, and he replied that he could understand it was the game's nature that nobody wanted to die, and the Echo Strategy team's principle was to help other friendly players as much as possible while ensuring their own safety. Then he told everyone that since they weren't sleeping, they should exchange information, and he had some ideas from that thing under the bed. The man asked him if it was because he had contact with it, and the lady asked him what exactly that thing was. He ordered them to move back a bit, which they did. Then he reached to his pulse and touched it to open his inventory. The inventory threw the corpse in front of them, making the players stunned in shock, covering their mouths and noses while asking what it was. He wiped the yellow towel on the corpse's body and showed the blood to them, explaining that the smell and color are the same, quite similar to what he felt just now. Suddenly, the corpse opened its eyes and crawled toward him to attack, but he simply launched his foot and kicked it hard. Then he told them that he found it in the shrubbery outside, and he was curious about it, so he put it in his inventory. But then he noticed the players were staring at him, making him ask them what kind of expressions those were and if they should not touch corpses while playing a game. Then he told them that they should get back to the topic and that the kind of corpse he has there is different from the one that was grabbing Wang Yuanqing. Since there are already 2, there must be more out there, so anyone willing can accompany him tomorrow to explore outside and see if there are more. Suining confidently told him that he would go with him tomorrow, and he smilingly told Suining that, of course, he was coming because he was the one paying. Even if he was not willing, he would tie him up and bring him with him, making Suining laugh awkwardly. Yuanqing told him that he just remembered that when the game started, all of them were deemed to have broken the house rules by Director Lin, and he guessed maybe that was why he was attacked instead of group punishment. Perhaps they chose a random player to kill to serve as a warning to the others. He told them that at least they now know one of the requirements to trigger a death scenario, and since nobody was able to sleep, they should look around for any clues. Also, he told them that it was so loud just now, but their mother didn't appear, which means staying up late or making a racket at night doesn't break the house rules. Then they began to search for clues. A moment later, he was in the room looking at something when Suining told him that he found some picture books, and they probably belonged to their little sister, to which he made a sound in agreement, making Suining look up and shocked to see him staring at the small hole. He asked Suining if he felt that the place was too small, making Suining confused. So, he explained to Suining that if he looked at the manor from the outside, it occupied quite a big plot of land, but the indoor area didn't seem to match with it. He thinks there must be a pretty big area behind that door. Suining opened his phone flashlight and walked toward the hole. Then, Suining looked at the hole and saw someone with red eyes staring back at him, making Suining shout in shock and hit Wen behind him while saying that there was an eye. Wen silently looked at the hole and walked toward it. Then, he looked at the hole and put his finger on the hole, making something behind the door shout in pain. Then he asked someone behind the door if her mother hadn't told her not to peek at others and informed her that she was now facing the consequences. However, that someone just called him a damn dog. The other players who heard the scream immediately ran toward them and asked what had happened, if that thing had appeared, and if they were okay. However, Yuanqing stopped when he saw him wiping his finger on Suining's clothes. He told them not to be afraid because it was just a ghost, realizing that the ghosts in that stage could actually feel pain and also had subconscious reactions to protect themselves after getting hurt. Suddenly, the creepy doll appeared to congratulate him for completing the hidden mission called Where is Elder Sister, and he gained 200 reward points for it. The doll then told them to continue working hard and wished them all to have a fun time in the game, leaving them shocked. He then told the lady behind the door that she was actually their elder sister and greeted her by saying that he respects the old and loves the young. He introduced himself as her younger brother and asked for her forgiveness, but the older sister just hit the door hard continuously in anger. He asked the lady why their elder sister was locked up there and if he should call for their mother to let her out. Then, he acted like he was going to call Director Lin, but their elder sister became quiet, making him realize that she was not sleeping. He wondered if their elder sister had done something and received a punishment. But he thought that if that was the case, then the food chain in that plot was clear for now. He told them that, according to their elder sister's reaction, in that plot, it went from their mother to their elder sister and then to the players. Also, concerning their little sister, they had to wait for her to wake up before they knew anything. Suining asked him how he knew it would be useful to bring up Director Lin, and he replied that it was a logical deduction, a courageous attempt, and they should think about the plot called Director Lin is extremely strict with all 9 of her children, which means the treatment of the elder sister and the players is the same. Also, under those conditions, their elder sister probably told their mother that she wasn't feeling well but then sneaked out during the night, which means their elder sister was also afraid of their mother. If their elder sister didn't have to obey, wasn't afraid, or wasn't restricted by their mother, then there was no reason for her to make up an excuse that she wasn't feeling well. Suining excitedly told him that it was right and that it was how it seemed. Yuanking looked at him while thinking that he thought he dared to be so reckless because he had a strong physique. Still, it seemed like Wen had been analyzing everything and did it faster than everyone else. He asked them if they discovered anything upstairs. Yuanking replied that they discovered nothing, not a single clue, making him think it was strange and wonder how they were going to clear it if there were no clues and requirements to clear the stage. Then he informed them that there were 2 things they needed to analyze. First, why did their elder sister have to hide from their mother to enter the locked area in the manor? Second, what is the purpose of the locked area in the manor inside that door in the living room? Suining asked him if they could clear the stage if they found out about those 2 things, and he replied that it was definitely not that easy. He then told everyone that when the sun rises, they would follow the plan to go out and see if they could find any more rotting corpses, and maybe they would discover something important. Knowing there was too little information at the moment, there was a need to explore the 2nd floor again. He started walking upstairs and asked the players behind him why they were following him. The suited man replied that it was a sense of security, making him sigh and agree without any choice. The next day, the players looked at the envelope worriedly. Suining told him that their elder sister seemed to play quite a significant role in that plot, so she would appear sooner or later. He asked him if he wasn't worried she would come to look for him. Suining also softly told him that he almost poked their elder sisters blind. After all, he replied that based on the way their mother treated him last night, if they didn't trigger a death scenario, Director Lin wouldn't just ignore their safety. Then he read the message that their mother was going into town for some business and would be gone for about 10 days. However, they all had to be obedient and help her look for the lost mask, needed to find it before the exhibition at the end of the month during this time, and make sure to listen to their elder sister. Viewers laughed, commenting that it was for him. He had just said how their mother wouldn't ignore him, but the next thing their mother was gone, and they told Director Lin to return quickly because he was in danger. He slammed the paper on Yuanking's face, saying that if he was not wrong, the requirements to clear the stage had appeared. Yuanking told them that they needed to find the lost mask to clear the stage. But they looked everywhere last night and couldn't find anything. Suining told everyone that it definitely wouldn't be easy to find. And Wen said that the indoor area space didn't match with the space of the manor from the outside. They saw it just now as well. Their elder sister is on the other side of the door, making him guess that maybe the mask is there. Suining asked him if he thought it was the case while he was busy putting mustard on his bread. He told them that they should eat first, to which Suining agreed, saying that there was no point thinking about it now, and they should listen to Wen. Later, they would go out and search. Later, they were outside holding shovels while he told them that last night, when he entered the game, there had been no movements from those corpses. When he told their mother about how they got lost and saw the corpses, their mother comforted them genuinely. So, adding in the curfew of the house, it was very likely that their mother knew about those corpses, and it was highly likely that the corpses could only move after a certain time into the night. Yuanking told him that it was good to hear. Then he stopped walking, and they did too. He raised his hand and told everyone that they should start. They began to walk in separate ways with their shovels. Then they all began to pierce their shovels into the ground and started to dig. The lady near Suining stopped when she saw a hand and shouted that she found one there. The man shouted that he found one too, and Suining told him that he had found 2 over there, surprising him. They all dragged the corpses into one place and looked at them in silence. Suining suggested keeping all of them in storage, and he replied that there was not enough space in the storage. Out of his 3 slots, 1 is already occupied by tools, and there are more than 20 corpses, with probably more to come. He then picked up his shovel, put his foot on one of the corpses, raised his shovel, and told everyone that they should remove all 4 limbs and the head, dismembering them as much as possible. Yuanking expressed concern about the violence and asked if there wouldn't be a problem if they did it. Suining replied that it shouldn't be a problem because if the corpses have no limbs, even if they start moving later, they won't be able to catch them, and the ones getting beaten up will be them. Suining then questioned why his thinking was starting to become like Wen's, and Wen told him that it is what it is. Wen assured them that they don't have to feel guilty because they are not humans and proceeded to cut off the corpse's head. Yuanking encouraged everyone, stating it was either they get wrecked or they die, so they should do it. They began to chop the bodies of the corpses, and viewers commented that they were starting to feel bad for the game creator. They couldn't even tell who the monsters were and who the persecuted players were. If they had someone like Wen leading them at that time, they wouldn't have died. And they cheered that finally, the players are the ones persecuting the game. Suddenly, someone walked toward them, and the lady glared at them. Meanwhile, Wen was busy chopping the corpses and threw the corpse's head away, shocked to see a lady dodge the head. The lady asked them what they were doing, and Suining was shocked to see that the lady's one eye was covered. He smiled, energetically calling her their elder sister to greet her good morning. But she just glared at him in anger. The system showed him that it was an individual mission, a special requirement to clear the stage updated for player number VI. The description stated that their elder sister had always been stuck there because their mother refused to let her go anywhere, and that place had a backward ideology. Most of the other girls her age had already found a partner, leading warm and blissful lives. Also, their elder sister, under their mother's restrictions, is unable to leave the house, but she wants a normal life as well and has only managed to experience it for a short moment. The special requirement to clear the stage was refreshed. If he clears the stage through the special requirement, all the other players will also be considered to have successfully cleared the stage. Successfully clearing the stage using the special requirement will grant him 800 points, and the other players will obtain 200 points. He wondered why it was only 800 points and if they were chasing off a beggar. He thought that women were slowing him down in obtaining points. She angrily asked them why they were outside and told them that if their little sister didn't see anyone when she woke up, she would start crying. She also informed them that the exhibition was about to start, so they needed to clean up the exhibition hall quickly. She added that she would pick one person to look after their little sister, and the rest would go clean up the exhibition hall. Then, she chose the lady in the red crop top and told her that she would go look after their little sister. However, the lady jumped at him and begged him to save her. She explained that she didn't want to be alone with that thing, even though their little sister was only a baby. He smiled and sweetly told her that it would be okay, so she should trust him. He mentioned that the exhibition hall must be the place where their elder sister was last night. According to the plot analysis, the map wasn't that big, so if there was any danger, she should just run and scream for help as she ran because they would definitely hear it. The lady walked away happily, and Suining asked him if they should just get rid of their elder sister since they had weapons right now. He told Suining not to be silly, emphasizing that the letter their mother left behind specifically stated to listen to their elder sister. They shouldn't try to see what would happen if they didn't listen to her. Then, he looked at their elder sister and smiled, telling her to bring them to the exhibition hall. Later, they arrived at the dirty exhibition hall. The elder sister told them that the exhibition would happen at the end of the month, so they needed to be quick and careful not to break anything unless they wanted to be alone at night. Then she walked out of the room, slamming the door behind her. Yuanking angrily asked why their elder sister left, where the water and rags were, and how they were supposed to clean. Suining asked Yuanking if he really planned to clean and told him that they needed to find the lost mask. Yuanking laughed, telling them that he was too engrossed in the plot. He remembered that there were buckets in the bathrooms and new rags in the kitchen drawers. Also, there was a water tap outside the house, but he wasn't sure if the water would come out. That was the rear area of the manor, but there wasn't a door that connected the exhibition hall and the living room, which meant in between the living quarters and the exhibition hall, there was another area. He told them that they should stay there and he would go grab something. Yuanking asked him what if their elder sister said he was breaking the house rules by leaving. But he just whispered to Suining to stay there. If their elder sister came back and asked, he should tell the truth that they didn't break any rules, so the game doesn't kill indiscriminately. Meanwhile, on the second floor, the lady watching over their little sister was crying while reading a book, and the baby stared at her with red glaring eyes. Then the door slowly opened, and he walked inside. The lady immediately threw the book and ran toward him in fear. She told him that she followed his instructions and read their little sister a picture book, so she moved a little bit slower while she did it. If she stopped reading, their little sister would climb out sooner or later. Then he saw the baby standing up in front of him, glaring with red and sharp teeth. The baby smiled, twitched her face, and ran toward him with both hands and feet like an animal. Then it jumped toward him with an open, huge mouth. The lady fearfully hid behind him, but he simply raised his feet and kicked the baby in the stomach, making the baby thrown away in shock. Then, someone appeared and reached for the baby. Their elder sister caught the baby in time and furiously asked him if that was how he treated a kid. Wasn't he the one who said to respect the old and love the young last night? According to his words, what he was doing now was wrong. He realized that doing something wrong was taken seriously there and might trigger a punishment from the system. So, he sweetly told his elder sister that the one who said that was yesterday's Zhu Wen, not today's Zhu Wen. If she wants to discuss it, she has to find the him from yesterday, not the him from today. Also, the one who kicked their little sister was the him from 1 minute ago, and it was not the him at that moment. Even if it was wrong, it was the him from 1 minute ago that was wrong, not the him at that moment. Additionally, respecting the old and loving the young are relative concepts. Although their little sister is his little sister right now, if they change the relativity, their little sister might become his elder sister. Their little sister's existence is liberal, not objective, a tangle in the quantum field. He asked if their little sister shouldn't be the one to respect the old and love the young, leaving their elder sister stunned in confusion. Then she asked her why she didn't realize before that his mouth is really smooth and nimble. However, he quickly told his elder sister to stop praising him because his ego would inflate. Viewers commented that his elder sister's blood pressure was through the roof, and if he got harassed by girls, it was definitely because of his mouth. Then he grabbed the lady away, telling his elder sister that since she was taking care of their little sister, they would go clean up the exhibition hall. This made his elder sister shout his name in anger. A moment later, in the exhibition, Su Aining told him that they counted just now and there were a total of 108 display cabinets. Luckily, the floor was made of wooden boards and the display cabinets were pretty heavy. They could see the markings of the cabinets that had been moved, and they were free just now. They moved a couple of cabinets, so if they were not wrong, there weren't as many cabinets before. The distance between cabinets based on the markings on the floor was much wider. He told everyone that there was water flowing from the water tap outside, and they should start cleaning because their mother's letter was very clear, saying that they should listen to their elder sister, to which they all agreed. Then they all began to brush the floor, wipe the walls, and clean everything around. The lady apologized to him and explained that because of her, he kicked their little sister. She then asked him what if their elder sister comes to trouble him. He told her that it has nothing to do with her and he poked their elder sister in the eye, so she will bother him sooner or later. Yuanking asked him why he was not doing anything and told him that it would be bad if they were deemed as breaking the house rules. However, he just told them that in the morning, he poked their elder sister in the eyes, and just now, he kicked their little sister flying. So he wanted to see what would happen if he breaks the house rules now, making everyone look at him in dizziness. Suddenly, he was shocked to see a key above the cabinet, so he immediately crawled up to get it and jumped down safely. Then he looked at the key, knowing that there wasn't anywhere that was locked right now, and there wasn't any door at the end of the exhibition hall as well, which meant there really was another area between the living quarters and the exhibition hall. He looked at the clock and told everyone that it was almost 10 p.m., so they should go back and rest just in case they missed the curfew and triggered another punishment. Later, Su Aining was sleeping when blood dripped on his face, and someone asked him if it was him or isn't, making him wake up and ask if it was when. But when he looked up, he saw a corpse near his face, telling him that he knows it was him and he can smell him, leaving him stunned in shock. Then he began to shout power, democracy, culture, harmony, liberty, equality, fairness, law, swift as a law, and Avada Kedavra, which is the Chinese incantation of a spell to vanquish ghosts, and Avada Kedavra is from Harry Potter. When kicked the corpse away from Su Aining, who was shouting that in the name of the moon, he'll punish it, which is from Sailor Moon. Then when put the corpse in the inventory, and Su Aining awkwardly told him that he had never been that brave his whole life. He told Su Aining that he did well and asked him why he was trembling. Su Aining replied that it was nothing and that he just suddenly had the urge to pee. Then he noticed the girls were still sleeping, making him wonder why didn't they wake up when there was such a huge commotion, thinking that something was wrong. Su Aining told him that he also felt really sleepy today and was so frightened yesterday that he couldn't even sleep, but today he fell into a deep sleep easily. Suddenly, they heard something break, making them surprised, and heard someone shouting to save him. Then they saw the man shaking in pain while holding his side, and when he looked at it, the man had a huge wound. He told the man that it's okay and it just looks kind of scary. Then he caught the man's blood using the mug, making the man ask him why he's taking his blood. He replied that the milk their little sister wants could be blood, so they shouldn't waste it, making them look at him in disbelief. Yuanking told them that they are all there because of the idea that Wen proposed last night. Wen confirmed that monsters can be put in storage, otherwise, when that zombie attacked, none of them would have been able to escape, to which Su Aining nodded in agreement. Then Yuanking suggested that they try to get both sisters into storage, making Su Aining wonder what kind of comedy group it was. He told them that it won't work because he already tried it, making them look at him in confusion and ask him when he did it. He replied that he did it last night on their little sister while she was asleep. He told them that he tried it on their elder sister that morning, and the lady told him that it was when he was arguing with their elder sister. Then he explained to them that they could conclude that non-living items could be put into storage because he had also tried putting in a few items throughout the day, and he was able to put them in. Even though the zombies can move at night, they are still dead people, meaning they are non-living. So, both sisters are still living, which is why it won't work on them. Suining happily replied that it was how it worked, but then he told Suining that he also tried it on him yesterday, making Suining ask him when and if he doesn't need to ask for his consent. He replied that when he was checking out the bodies during the day, he also tried bugs, but it didn't work, so living items are incapable of being stored. When they entered the game, it was 9:55 p.m., 5 minutes after entering the game. The plot started, which means they purposely made them miss the exciting period. Then the game gave them 20 minutes to come back there so they could delete their accounts. Suining raised his hand while saying that he knew that problem, and they could assume that 10:20 p.m. is when the zombies start being active. If it is outside of that time, then a player could be killed, and the game automatically deletes the player's account. He showed his thumb and nodded his head in agreement. The man told them that it means they are forced to choose between getting killed or deleting their account and that the game is forcing them to die. The lady asked if it doesn't mean it wasn't safe to go out at night. The man replied that they should be active during the day and sleep at night. But Yuanking told everyone that during the day, they have to deal with sisters, and they are trapped either way. He told them that the above is just his hypothesis and it lacks actual proof. Suining asked him how they prove it, but he just grabbed the shovel in Suining's hand and jumped out of the window, telling them to try it out. He landed safely on the ground, and a lot of red dots appeared in the dark. Then he saw them glaring at him. The zombies walked out of the dark to face him. Suining worriedly told him to come back, but he just smiled and jumped toward the zombies. Then he raised the shovel to attack, and the players were shocked to see the zombie shouting in anger at him and launching an attack. He simply cut off the zombie's head. The zombie's head bounced off on another zombie's head. He glared at them and speedily cut off their heads easily. He smiled as he glared at the zombies ahead of him, making the zombie cuss in shock. Then he walked toward them, and the zombies began to run away to escape while he was busy attacking the zombies he could hit. On the other hand, the other players were just watching him while the comments were all confused. Yuanking asked Suining if he had something to say, and Suining replied that he had gotten used to it. Half an hour later, he came back to the house. When he entered, the other players backed off, making Suining ask them what was wrong. He walked inside with the box in his arm and gave it to Suining while telling them that he had tried it out. That time period is when the zombies are active, and when he was chasing them earlier, he accidentally kicked it. Also, the horde was going in a single direction, making it obvious that the box was being guarded by the horde, and there should be important information inside. So, he suggested checking out what was inside because he was going to take a shower, to which Suining agreed. A moment later, he walked out of the bathroom in the bathrobe when he heard the man asking why the ones to be attacked were him and Suining. He explained that he didn't mean anyone else being attacked would be fine, but he just didn't understand the conditions when they did almost the exact same thing today. Suining replied that the man was right, and no one went against the house rules during the day, making him wonder if that night's punishment was random. He told them that other than the man and Suining, everyone else was mopping the floor or wiping the walls, but they too wiped the display. Yuanking furiously slammed his fist into the wall while asking him what the hell he meant. If they don't listen to their elder sister, they violate the rules, but if they listen to her, they are going against the horde, making him wonder if paradise isn't all about fairness and how there could be two basic contradicting rules. He told Yuanking to calm down and explain that the setting is reasonable. The monsters on that level have senses, they can get scared, and even normal people have the right to fight back. So, under that theory, the game setting things that way can't be considered unfair. Then he noticed the box is still closed, making him ask Suining if the key doesn't fit. Suining replied yes and told him that they tried multiple times. Then he grabbed the box and ripped it apart easily, making the men think he was just showing how weak they were. Yuanking asked him if he isn't afraid of the horde because he just destroyed it like that, and he replied that it doesn't matter how they proceed to do it because the final result is that they open the box. The horde won't attack him just because he did something he was meant to, so they shouldn't underestimate them, making Suining think he was talking as if they are just his distant relatives. The paper with the title of the obituary fell out of the box, and he saw below the paper the words, "If you aren't here to protect, then you can leave." Suining asked him to protect what and who is the one leaving. He told them that earlier, he chased the horde around the mansion and found that they couldn't get within 5 meters of the mansion, which means if they don't touch the display shelves, the horde won't bother them. Suining told him that if they don't touch the display shelves, then they can't clean them, which means they didn't listen to their elder sister. Combined with the players that missed the door lock time the first night, even if they don't touch the display shelves, the horde will still come. He told them that the trigger reasons are different, but the ending is the same, and since that is all there is to say, it is time for them to sleep, making the players all think that he is the only one who can fall asleep. The next day, Suining told them to look, and feeding their little sister blood works. Then they saw their little sister drink the man's blood that was in the cup and devoured it easily. Then she fell back to sleep, making all of them sigh of relief. They looked at the baby sleeping peacefully, making Suining relieved that it should do the trick and asked him if he was awake, to which he replied yes and told them that if their little sister is happy, then they should go to the display room and see if they can find some more clues. Then they headed down to the exhibition room. Suining was busy cleaning the display when he noticed something underneath it. Suining immediately called him for help and told him that there is something under the display. Then they all lifted the display, and he forcefully pulled the thing underneath the display. Then he looked at it confused. Suining looked at it too, but then he pinched Suining's cheek and told Suining that the feeling was the same, and it was human skin, but it was a few days old, making Suining sweat in fear and confusion. Suddenly, a lady shouted in fear and told them that there's a mask there. Yuinking reminded them that their mother asked them to look for a mask, and the lady asked him if they should wipe the display shelves or not. He replied that they do. Yuinking shouted that they should get to it because if they wipe them, there is trouble, but if they don't, there is still trouble, so they might as well get things done. He told everyone that since they are going to do it, they should split it up. There are a total of 108 display shelves. Getting all of them done today is unrealistic, so they should do 10 each because it was fair that way, to which they replied that they'll do whatever Wen says. Then they began to wipe the shelves while counting how many shelves they cleaned. A moment later, Suining tiredly shouted that he was done cleaning his 10 shelves and slumped down in tiredness. But when he peeked at his side, he was shocked to see a lot of shelves shining in cleanliness, making him ask Wen how they are all done and if they didn't agree on 10 each. He replied that he was bored, so he finished the rest, making Suining think that he was better than everyone even at wiping shelves. Yuinking told him that they did finish them, but it was too scary while looking at a swarm of masks inside the shelves. Then Suining remembered something and told him that he was not sure if it was just his memory, but when they were looking for the zombies yesterday, he thought they all didn't have faces, making everyone surprised except him. Yuinking shook in fear and told everyone that it means they aren't cleaning the display room but cleaning the faces of those outside. The man asked Yuinking if he could not say things just to scare people, but Yuinking replied that he was not saying it just to scare people. He finally knows why they were upset with them last night, because if someone that didn't care about him cleaned his face, he would be upset as well. He tapped the glass of one of the shelves to get their attention and told them that the shelf he just tapped was empty, and the one that Suining found used to be placed right there, but there is something else inside there. Suining replied that he knew and asked him if they needed to use the key he gave him yesterday, but he just broke the shelf using his elbow, making Suining ask him if it wasn't too aggressive. He replied that it was a little bit. He grabbed the paper inside the shelf while telling them that he was thinking. He poked their older sister's eyes the first night and kicked their little sister yesterday, making him wonder why the horde didn't come after him last night, because it should have been him that was attacked. They wondered why he looked disappointed. Then he read the paper with the words "We protect, we watch, and we create," making Suining ask him who he is without noticing someone walking toward them. The elder sister asked him why he didn't listen to her, making everyone shocked to see their elder sister. Then she reminded him that their mother said to make sure to clean the display room. But he destroyed a display shelf, which is a huge mistake. He sadly reasoned that he only gets to see his sister when he did something wrong, and he misses her, so it was the reason why he did it, and it was his elder sister's fault that he made a mistake, making their elder sister confused. Yuinking told Suining that he thinks Wen is trying to hook up with their elder sister, and Suining replied that he is not sure, but they should keep watching. The elder sister inhaled and creepily told him that since he did something wrong, his elder sister can only lock him up forever to keep him by her side. Later, he woke up and he was in the unknown room. He looked around and saw the hole in the door, making him remember that place and realized that he was right. Yesterday night, he was playing with the gold key and told everyone that he already tested it, and it matched the lock on the display cabinets, so it should be a universal key. They should open all the display cases tomorrow because there could be clues. Yuinking worriedly told him that what their elder sister said yesterday was definitely a death threat, so tonight he would be punished. But then Suining told him not to worry because he won't let anything happen to him. Then Suining asked them why don't they take turns on watch, because if there is danger, there has to be a way to deal with it. Yuinking told everyone that it makes sense and they should get ready to fight because tonight, either the horde wipes them out or they wipe them out. The lady with the glass told them that yesterday she saw a rope in her storage, so they should tie everyone together so that no one will be pulled away without anyone noticing. Then the lady in the red crop top told everyone that she checked yesterday, and the rope is long enough so that they can be tied together and still move freely, to which he agreed and told them that it works. But a moment later, he was counting from 1 to 2 inside the room, and the viewers were laughing while commenting that they tied the rope for nothing, a single person's escape room, and they guessed that getting out required teamwork. He touched the wall, realizing that it was what happened when a big mistake was made and it was about 4.5 palms wide. Then he noticed the hole and remembered that it was behind the door in the living room where he poked his sister's eye. He knows that it was behind the door in the living room as well as the space between the living area and the display area, and the way it's set up is like a locked room. So if that area is for punishment, he wonders why his sister did to be put in there, and he notices that it was really tight, so it was hard for him to move around. Suddenly, the wall began to move, making him confused and surprised. He tried hard to stop it using his hand with all his might. But when he noticed that it was not stopping, he raised his feet and kicked the wall hard, which broke it. He realizes that the wall is quite thick, then he bends down on the ground, making the viewers ask if he is planning on destroying the escape room. And one of the viewers tells the other to hit one to make Wen destroy the escape room, which the viewers did. He looked up and sat down on the floor, making the viewers confused and asking why he sat down. He knows that once the walls reach a certain point, they will stop squeezing, and the game wouldn't use such an easy way to kill a player. So he knows that putting him in there isn't to kill him but to limit his movement to fulfill the punishment in the house rules. He knocks on the wall while the viewers ask if the only thing he can do is wait, where are the teammates at a time like it, and comment that in those situations, it should be all left in the hands of the teammates. Also, it was so tight that he can barely move his arms and legs, but he thinks there is no need to hurry. On the other hand, the other players were sleeping peacefully, but then Suining woke up and looked for Wen to check. Suining cursed in frustration upon seeing that Wen was gone and woke everyone up. He shouted to everyone that Wen had disappeared, so they had to go save him. However, someone held his arm, and the man fearfully told him that Wen was gone and it was too scary. If they go, they are asking for death. Then another man fearfully shouted that he didn't want to play anymore and asked why it was them and why are they playing those stupid games. He shouted to them that Wen isn't dead, so they shouldn't say random things, but the man shakingly told him that Wen disappeared without a single sound, and it wasn't something a human can do. Then he told him that they are going up against a god and asked how they are supposed to beat it. He slapped the man's hand away and furiously told them that whether they can do it or not can only be decided after they figure out what is going on, and just crying about it won't help anything. However, the players just bent in the ground, shaking in fear. Yuanking ripped the rope tying them while shouting to them that if they were afraid of death, then they should keep hiding, so they could see how long they could survive that game. Wen saved his life, so he was going to help look for Wen. Then Yuanking ran away, making Suining chase after Yuanking and telling him to wait for him. He tried to tell Yuanking to wait, but then Yuanking stopped running, making him ask Yuanking why he was just standing there. Yuanking told him not to come over there while looking at the swarm of zombies beneath them. Then the zombies crawled up to the wall while asking where he was, making them fearfully ask what they were looking for and where that thumping sound was coming from. Suddenly, a foot came out of the wall, making them shocked. Then he put his head out of the hole, making the zombies' attention turn to him, but he just told them to hurry up and give him a hand. The zombies rushed toward him while shouting that it was him and that tonight was a feast. Then the zombies began to enter the hole he made, making it huge. He teasingly told them that it was just like it, and he knows they can do better. He smiled while telling them that they were almost there and they got it. When he thought the hole was enough for him, he put his foot on one of the zombies' faces and kicked its head off while coming out of the hole, making the zombie ask where his head goes. But he just asked Suining and Yuanking where those zombies learned to work together. Suddenly, a huge zombie jumped in front of him to attack, but he simply dodged its attack and punched it hard in the face, breaking its teeth into pieces and was thrown back to the other zombies. He stretched his body while saying that he was a little sore, so he'll have to get a massage after it. The zombies looked at him confused, but he just told them that for now, he'll use them to warm up. Suining called him from above and threw the pickaxe at him while telling him to catch it. He caught the pickaxe easily with one hand and raised it up while thanking Suining and glaring creepily at the zombies. The zombie shouted in fear, remembering that his smile and his axe were familiar to them. The other zombies ran away, making one of the zombies ask them why they were running and tell them to stop right there because it was the crazy bastard from yesterday. But when he jumped with his pickaxe to attack them, the zombies ran in panic. Yuanking told Suining that he thinks Wen did it on purpose, and Suining told Yuanking to drop the thinking because Wen really did it on purpose. If he was not wrong, Wen smashed the display case to violate the rules. Yuanking agreed to Suining, knowing that the fastest way to pass would be to trigger all of the death rules. If they kept avoiding death, then that would drag out the time needed to pass. But Yuanking asked if it wasn't a little too rash. Suining replied that it was not a rush for Wen, and Wen made that major infraction on purpose because that way Wen would be locked up just as their elder sister threatened. Also, combined with the fact that wiping the display cases would attract the Horde, Wen wiped many more cases than any of them, so the Horde would go find him. Then the zombies would break the room to get to him, and then the two punishments would contradict, making Yuanking understand why it looked like the Horde was saving him. The viewers thanked the proud Suining for the explanation because they couldn't understand it all, realized that Wen used the system to break the system, thought Wen's process was amazing, and wanted to say that Wen was too rash, but everything was under Wen's control. Yuanking thanked Suining for his explanation and told him that he kind of knew what was going on, but there was still one thing he didn't understand. Then Yuanking asked Suining how Wen knew for sure that he would be locked behind the wall, and not somewhere else. Suining sweatily thought for a moment, but in the end, told Yuanking that he didn't know, but he was guessing that it's just Wen's thought process. A moment later, all the chopped corpses were in the hole in the ground, and the players were busy cleaning and looking around for clues. He asked them why they were awake and if they didn't want some rest. Yuanking told him that after the wall was destroyed, they found some old newspapers between the wall and wallpaper, and they thought it might be clues. Then asked him if he could check it out. Then he put the newspapers on the ground while Yuanking asked him if the system would get mad when he practically destroyed the living area. He replied no and explained that in his first level, he burned the whole place down. Then they all looked at the newspapers, and the writing on it was congratulating the Mask Museum on their 102nd anniversary. Times had flown past, and in a blink of an eye, it had already been 102 years, and during those years, they remembered the teachings of the ones before them, followed the rules, and showed kindness to the people around them. In the other newspaper, the writer told everyone that they should let the celebration commence and explained that according to tradition, that year's museum would be open to the public on the 4th week of fall, and the organizers stated that they would carefully inspect everything as always. He told them that this year, the museum would welcome its 102nd item that would impress the world. Suining told them that before, the 102 items corresponded to 102 years, and there were 108 display slots that year, so it was the 108th year. The man told them to stop wondering what year it is, and the mask that their mother had prepared is broken, so they should wonder where they are supposed to get a new mask, making everyone surprised upon hearing it. Yuanking realizes that it was a sword game, and they are done for, and it was all for nothing. The lady with glasses asked what is the sword game. Suining told everyone that he did some homework online, and there was a person whose username was Master of Tarot and was a numbered user with a tarot card skill. Master of Tarot used the cards to sort the games, and most can be divided into a power game, a coin game, a holy grail game, and a sword game. Also, each kind of game had a different setting. Yuanking continued by saying that sword games need the sacrifice of one or more players to pass, and they usually end with all of the players committing homicide. The lady in the red crop top shockingly asked them if they have to use one of their faces, but no one answered in horror, and even he kept silent. Suining wrapped around his arm and asked him what he was thinking about. He replied that he was just thinking about whose death would be the most beneficial to them, making Suining surprised, but he just smilingly tells Suining that he was just joking. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment part 2 in the comments section. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell and like the video. Thank you for watching and see you next time again.